Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the Sunday Night Football slate on DraftKings. $500,000 to first between the Cowboys and the Eagles. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, turn that notification bell. Trying to make the push to 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys help me out with that, would greatly appreciate it. And now let's get into the best plays for the Sunday slate to win that $500,000. Before I get into the breakdown, just want to say follow me on Twitter, HartDFS, putting up my PrizePicks plays, my DFS plays, all that good stuff there. Yeah, let's get into the slate breakdown, the Sunday Night Football slate. Should be a good one. I know Cooper Rush is a quarterback. He's been doing decent, but I do think this is where things fall apart for Cooper Rush. Not really sure how he's going to be able to navigate this very good Philadelphia team and defense. I know Dallas's defense has been phenomenal as well, so maybe there's a chance this game is a little slow-paced at first. But at the top, we have Jalen Hurts, 11.8K. I mean, he's been having an MVP season. As we can see, 24, 37, 30, 16, and then 27. So he's been unreal. He has the ability to get you 300-plus point upside when it comes to passing the ball, throwing some touchdowns, as well as getting a bunch. Look at the rushing attempts. 17, 11, 9, 16, 15. I mean, he's on pace to set the record for a quarterback for rushing attempts and rushing yards in the season, I believe, or at least rushing attempts. And he's getting a ton of touchdowns rushing the ball as well, so looking to get him involved. 11-8, he's one of those few quarterbacks that you could easily throw into the captain spot and feel good about it because he's not really throwing it to a bunch of different people. He is pretty much their running back as well, so that kind of takes out all the running backs. And yeah, I mean, he's just a perfect example of a player who has all the upside in the world to be an optimal captain. So I don't mind going there. He's going to be super popular in that captain spot. Going to be a little tough to get him in there along with the other guys you're going to want to get to on this Eagles side and the Dallas side. But 11-8 for Jalen Hurts looks fantastic. Has that big play ability. And for him, I think you can get away with playing him in the captain spot. And, only playing one, maybe two flex players on the Eagles along with him. Most of the time, if you're going to play a quarterback at captain, you're going to want to get at least three, of his pass catchers with him because that means if he's, doing well, he's either going to get you, maybe a QB sneak, a rushing touchdown, or he's throwing it to a bunch of different wide receivers and they're getting a few touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. But Hurts is one of those rare guys that he can get it done all by himself, spreading out the ball or just rushing it. So with him, I think you guys can definitely get away with at least two or maybe even one players on the Eagles in the flex. If you're going to do that, I think A.J. Brown looks like a fantastic buy low opportunity. 10-6, very, very expensive. But as we can see from the snap counts on the Eagles, I mean, he's not running a ton of routes. I mean, I think he might be slightly banged up, but he's been fine. As we can see, him and Devontae are wide receiver 1 and 2. Obviously, A.J. Brown being wide receiver 1, Devontae being wide receiver 2, but it's nice to see Devontae pretty much playing every snap. A.J. Brown has been, trending down a little bit. Something to keep an eye on, but I think he's fine. I think they're just doing it because, the game scripts haven't been going his way. Maybe he's slightly, banged up, but Quez Watkins and Zach Pascal are filling in wide receivers 3 and 4 for them, and then Dallas Goedert is pretty much playing the whole game. Jack Stoll is the tight end 2, but I don't think it's get there. With that in mind, as we can see, A.J. Brown 10-6, great start of the season, and he's kind of come back down to earth, been pretty solid. He's one of those guys who had at least 5 targets and 50-plus yards in every game until that last one against Arizona. A little bit of a disappointing one, 10-6. I like the buyback opportunity here. Do think you can just rock with him and, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and that's really all you need. But I mean, it's just hard not to, put all these Eagle players into the lineup. I think that's going to be kind of the go-to just because their offense is way more well-rounded compared to the Cowboys. So really like A.J. Brown as well. You can make the argument. You can definitely throw him in the captain spot. I just think his upside is kind of a little bit capped with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, but you can definitely look to him. CeeDee Lamb, 9-8 is questionable. But it looks like he will play. He's seen 8+ targets every single game. Saw 2 touchdowns, one against the Giants, one against Washington. I just feel a little bit hesitant to throw any of these Dallas guys in the captain spot because I just think Cooper Rush has been playing such a been doing such a fantastic job, winning them the games, just being a good management quarterback. As you can see, not crazy stats. His best game was against Washington. We threw for 223 yards, 2 touchdowns. But otherwise, he's not scoring a ton of fantasy points. And I really don't see how he's going to be able to do that against this this Philadelphia defense. I think they're going to have to try to stick to their game plan, maybe, run the ball a ton, do some quick passes. But otherwise, I think it's tough to get to CeeDee Lamb in that captain spot just because of how limited their offense is when Cooper Rush is in there. He's just more trying to manage the game, let their defense do the work, them try to pick off easy points, and they just win that way. Don't really see them getting out to a huge lead here. So, yeah, I think you could definitely fade Cooper Rush as a flex play. CeeDee Lamb, I think, if they go down, he's going to get all the targets, so you could definitely make that argument there. But I do think both of them are fadeable in this spot, but I don't mind getting the CeeDee Lamb as a flex play to bring back if you're going to stack the Eagles on the offensive side. Cooper Rush, as I said, I don't think I'm going to get there for 9-4. Just doesn't have a ton of upside, and going against this Philly D, I just don't think it's for me. Miles Sanders, the running backs on the Eagles team will be more contrarian just because they are kind of running a split backfield a little bit. As you can see, Miles Sanders is playing about, when they were all healthy week 1, he played 52, Kenneth Gainwell 30, Scott 18. So Scott's floating around that 20% mark. It did see a downtrend week 3 and then was injured week 4 and week 5. So I do think he'll be back. It'll definitely eat into Miles Sanders' usage a little bit, but I do expect to see Miles play at least 50% of snaps, maybe between 50, 65. Kenneth Gainwell is going to see between like 20 and 30, and then Boston Scott will mostly like a third down back, that pass catching back. But he'll see between, maybe 10, 15, 20% at most of the snaps. So that does hurt Miles Sanders' upside a little bit. Going against Dallas's defense, who's been, phenomenal this year. Their O-line or the defensive line has been great, especially rushing the passer. So yeah, I just think the Eagles running backs are just more of like a contrarian play. Don't think they're a high priority for me, but once again, everyone's going to see them as a contrarian play. A lot of people are not going to play them, so maybe you could look to them at lower ownership to kind of get different from the field. Zeke Elliott, 8,200. He is, the main back for them. I know he is splitting carries with Tony Pollard, but as we can see, he's seen at least 60+% of the snaps every week since week 1, 67, 64, 64, 65. Do think the Cowboys are going to try to run the ball once again. I know look at the touches for Zeke. He's not having the best fantasy point outputs, but 15 touches, 15, 19, 22 against the Rams. They're going to have to do the same game plan against this Philadelphia team where they're just going to have to run the ball, get those easy points if they can, because it's not looking like they're going to be explosive offense at all with, Cooper Rush behind center. So I think Zeke is once again makes for a great pivot play, great contrarian play. He's going to be low owned, 8,200, hasn't flashed any upside at all. People hate him, so I do think could be a sneaky play. Maybe he breaks out, a touchdown. Maybe he gets a goal line touch if they get close. That could really pay off. So don't mind going there. Tony Pollard, only 200 less. People are going to flock to him over Zeke just because of that big play upside. He's been breaking off a good amount of runs, big plays. 46-yarder, 57 against the Rams, touchdown. So I do think people are going to flock to Tony Pollard over Zeke, but I prefer Zeke because he's seen 65% plus snaps, as well as a ton of touches, and they just haven't paid off yet. So for that price difference, do prefer Zeke over Tony, even though Tony is more explosive and I guess slightly better in the passing game. Devontae Smith was heavily involved in that last game against Arizona. I think he caught like 5 or 6 targets. So this number is a little bit deceiving. It wasn't like the Washington game where he's catching, huge bombs downfield. This was just a ton of targets because for some reason they couldn't get their offense going in the passing game. Jalen Hurts was kind of doing whatever he wanted when it came to running, but passing it, they weren't doing well. A.J. Brown only had 3 catches. Devontae Smith had all of his catches pretty much from, screen plays, just throwing out to the quick passes to the side. So that number is a little bit skewed, but he's one of those guys, you can definitely take a shot on him, 7,400. That big play upside, he can catch the long ball, as you can see, a 45-yarder, 22-yarder. So don't mind going there at 7,400. I think everyone's going to be on these Philadelphia guys, and for a good reason. Way better offense. So you're going to have to look to get different, playing guys like Zeke or maybe playing a guy like Noah Brown, or maybe one of the backup tight ends on the Cowboys if Schultz doesn't play. Dallas Goedert, I think my order of, my favorite plays on the Eagles side are going to be obviously Jalen Hurts number 1, followed by Dallas Goedert, and then I'd say AJ Brown, and then Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert had, the most targets he's seen all season. Last game against the Cardinals, 8 of 9 for 95 yards. Only has 1 touchdown this season. I do think this is a game where he could look to him once again to score that touchdown. So I do think he does have enough ability. I think Devontae Smith obviously has that captain upside that you do like to see, as we saw in week 3, even week 5 in a game like this game, which may not be that high scoring because there are 2 good defenses. That could definitely get you there. So I wouldn't rule him out as a captain spot or captain play, but do think he makes for a decent flex play. And same thing with what I was saying with Dallas Goedert. Doesn't have that huge, ceiling that you kind of want out of a captain spot player, but do like the targets going up for him. He's a very, very solid player for them. And if, let's say he only gets, 6-7 targets, he catches most of them, for a decent amount of yards. If one of them's a touchdown, that could easily get you there at the captain spot, especially for his cheap price, 6,800. So I think he's one of my favorite plays in this Philadelphia receiving room. Who else we got here? I think it's pretty much ruled out that Dak is not going to play, but for some odd reason he does. Then it kind of changes the whole video, and I'll make an updated one. But as of right now, we can kind of go with that he's not going to play. Kenneth Gainwell, you could take that dart throw shot that he runs in a touchdown over Miles Sanders or Jalen Hurts, but I think he's just more of a contrarian 6,200, one of those dart throws you throw in at the flex to get different because no one's going to play him, and just really hope he falls over the end zone. Otherwise, he doesn't look like a good play. Michael Gallup, I think he's a solid play. 3 targets the first week back from that knee injury, 5 the next week against the Rams. He is only seen, let's see here. Looking like the third wide receiver right now, 64% of the snaps week 1, 55 against the Rams. I do expect that number to go up. Do expect him, once Dak is back, especially to be that number 2 wide receiver for the Cowboys over Noah Brown. Do expect Noah Brown to shift to wide receiver 3. But once again, he's still getting, used to the game, getting back into it. But I do like him a decent amount, 5,400 as an explosive playmaker for this Dallas side, especially if they need to, get back into this game. So I do like him over Noah Brown. Even Noah Brown, he's been very solid this season so far for the Cowboys, as you can see the first 3 games. Then it's kind of dropped off, only 2 targets against the Rams. But he has seen a good amount of snaps. That's something you do like. You want to take shots on those guys who are playing pretty much the whole game. He is involved. He's been getting targeted, but I do think I prefer Gallup, who's a little bit more expensive, but he's just a better wide receiver overall, more explosive. Schultz, if he's good to go, it looks like he has no injury. I don't mind getting to him. Once again, I do think people are going to be very overlooked on Dalton Schultz, or be overlooked on him. He's going to be overlooked, just because that first game he looked great with what's his name, Dak throwing the ball against Tampa Bay. 9 targets, caught 7 of them for 62 yards, and then he's just been injured, and obviously Dak has been out, so he just hasn't been good at all. Past few games, lingering knee issue kept him out of that last game against the Rams. Looks like he's great, good to go. Maybe there is a little bit of a hesitancy because of that knee issue and how it's been lingering, but 4,800 once again. I do prefer, I'd say, getting to Gallup and Schultz over CeeDee Lamb in the spot against this Philadelphia D. Really expect that Cooper Rush is going to have to come out and just kind of pass the whole second half to try to get back into this game. So Schultz is a great tight end. It just had that, lingering knee injury. So I think, he's a great flex play. Don't think any of these guys on the Dallas side have the upside for a captain spot. Maybe you do it just because you want to get different from the field, and maybe, who knows, it works out, because as we know with these showdown slates, anything can happen, and that's what's been happening, especially the defenses and kickers. But don't think you get to that in this game. But yeah, once again, Dalton Schultz looks like a pretty solid flex play option at 4,800. Watkins, he's just more of those dart throw plays, as you saw in week 2. If he does that in your flex spot, that's fantastic. Otherwise, he's not going to be too involved. as the third wide receiver on the Eagles. They kind of keep it concentrated between A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, and Miles Sanders, and Dallas Goedert. So there isn't that much upside for a guy like Watkins at 4,600 to do well for you. I mean, you could definitely take a shot on the Eagles defense, 4,200. As we've seen, they put up points. Cooper Rush is not going to be throwing all over the field. If he does, that just leaves more opportunities for them to pick him off. I do think he's going to get sacked a good amount. So, I mean, it's looking pretty solid for the Eagles to play him here at 4,200. I know I always advise playing against high-owned defenses. I don't think he'll be that high-owned. I do think people are kind of under that Cooper Rush spell of how he's been able to handle his own. But once again, 4,200. I will mention it. The Eagles defense does look good here against Cooper Rush, who is a game management quarterback, and that's how they're going to use him. I do think the Eagles are going to be able to exploit that. Jake Elliott, I don't mind getting into the kickers. They don't look as good this week. Maybe Brett Maher looks solid just because I don't think they're going to be able to score a ton of touchdowns with how they're kind of trying to game manage on the Cowboys side. So I do think I'd prefer Brett Maher to Jake Elliott. Cowboys defense, they've been fantastic. Their pass rush has been fantastic, as you can see. 2 sacks, 6, 5, 2, and 5. Not getting up a ton of points either. 19, 17, 16, 10, 10, all under 20 points. They've been doing great, but now they're going against this Eagles team who can throw the ball and run it. Do think they're going to be on the field a ton because I think the Cowboys offense is not going to be able to score. So that means the defense is going to be on the field a ton. They're going to get tired, going to get worn down. So I don't think you go to the Cowboys defense at all at 3,400. But you could definitely take that dart throw shot. I just don't think it's worth it at 3,400. Tolbert for Dallas, he's getting some run, but really just think you want to stick to those main guys of, either one of the running backs or CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, or Michael Gallup. Maybe dart throw Noah Brown. Zach Pascal, fourth wide receiver for Philly. He is getting some run, but not getting really targeted at all. He's kind of like a Quez Watkins, but do prefer Quez Watkins if you want to take a dart throw on one of those, random wide receivers on the Philly side. Boston Scott, once again, kind of like Kenneth Gainwell. Would rather take a shot on him over Gainwell just because he is that third down back. Maybe they look to pass the ball to him a little bit more. So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to really get much out of him unless he falls over the end zone and gets you a few catches, which he can do. But at 1,200, looks like an okay play. There's not really much value on the slate. Everyone's pretty much good to go. And for that reason, you could maybe, if it's disgusting, but maybe take a shot on like Jake Ferguson or Peyton Hendershot. Maybe Schultz is not 100% good to go, or maybe he gets his knee injury, it flares up again. I mean, they're pretty cheap at 200. Hendershot not really getting much action. Where is the other guy? Ferguson, right there. Don't know why I was missing him. Both just not super involved. Just rather take the shot on Schultz, but I will mention them just because they've been getting some run. But with Schultz most likely good to go and back, don't think they're going to be seeing 60% of snaps, mostly maybe 30% or less. That really does it. I mean, both teams are pretty much healthy, besides obviously Dak Prescott. Two great defenses. Do think Philadelphia's offense is going to be a huge problem for that Cowboys defense. They're going to be, with how these slates have gone, pretty much kickers and defenses have been fantastic. And then the flex plays, it's pretty much just at random. But really expect this game to come back to the norm of, the good plays being good plays, the bad plays being bad plays. And it just comes down to how to get different. And I think getting different revolves around, fading maybe a CeeDee Lamb, playing a guy like Zeke Elliott, and then relying upon like a Michael Gallup or a Dalton Schultz to be the two Dallas players that you run it back with. Do really think this offense is going to struggle for Dallas. So as of right now, this is kind of the route I'm looking to go. Maybe Jalen Hurts and the captain for me. Do like Dallas Goedert, Michael Gallup. Do like the buyback opportunity on A.J. Brown. And then, look to get different with those two leftover flex plays, as I mentioned. Maybe getting to like a Schultz at 4,800. As I said, not a lot of value to get down to. Could definitely take a shot on the guy like what I mentioned, Quez Watkins, but once again, he's pretty expensive. So going to be hard to get different. Going to be hard to get those, top guys on the Eagles side and captain. But I really think this slate's really opening up to get very contrarian with like a Zeke play or like a Schultz play. So once again, if you guys liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.